Say it's a lie. That's what she said to me, hand on her belly, mascara trembling on her lashes, cameras stacked at the gate like vultures on a fence line. My name's Caleb Hart. If you've read the headlines, you already know the ugly version. This is the true one, the version that breathes. It started on a gray Tuesday on the north side of Chicago, wind sharp enough to shave your thoughts clean. I was standing outside a glass mansion where the hedges looked like they were ironed every morning. I'd come to ask for work, anything honest. I wasn't always sleeping in a shelter. Once upon a time, I signed off on 7-figure reconciliations, wore a tie the color of rain, ate lunches where the waiter remembered my name. Then a junior I mentored cooked the books and let them burn with my initials on the match. I took the fall, the market took my savings. My wife took whatever was left that wasn't nailed down. That's the resume. So I stood at that gate, hat in my hands, and said to the guard, "Tell Ms. Whitfield I can fix back office chaos. Temporary day rate, you said it." I didn't ask for pity, just a door that wasn't slammed. The door opened anyway, just not the way I expected. She walked out like a cold front in high heels. Ivy Whitfield. Tech billionaire, 30-something eyes like the line where the lake meets winter. There's a grief you can see even when someone's face is still. She wore that grief like high fashion and armor. She'd built Whitfield Labs after losing her parents and a divorce that made the tabloids drool. They said she could bend the city with an email. She listened for maybe half a minute. I told her what I knew, what I could do, where I fell, where I stood back up. She unscrewed a bottle of cold brew, tilted it slow, and poured it over my head. Coffee ran into my collar, down my beard, freezing me and waking me in the same breath. "Get off my property," she said. Like mercy was a commodity she didn't trade in. I wiped my face and said, calm as I could manage, "Humiliation travels in circles, Ms. Whitfield. This won't be the last time we meet." I didn't say it to threaten her. I said it because life has a wicked sense of humor. That night, a deal of hers collapsed, a merger worth more zeros than I'll ever see. I didn't know that part then. I just knew I found my way to a bar under an old theater marquee, the kind of place neon makes you feel like tomorrow might glow if you squint. I was nursing a Sprite because the men in the shelter taught me that when despair whispers buy a drink, it's really just asking to rent you for the night. And then she stumbled in black dress diamond watch, a storm behind her eyes and not enough sky to hold it. She fumbled her keys in the lot. I caught them before they skittered into a drain. She blinked at me like I was a bad dream she couldn't shake. "You again. You can't drive like this," I said. "Let me get you home." Her pride argued for a full minute, maybe 5. Then the world tilted on her and pride lost. I set her in the back seat of her own SUV, told the guard at the gate she'd given the okay. She did a slurred whisper and carried her up the stairs when her knees turned to water. I laid her on the bed, every part of me saying, "Leave that. This is how men get their lives twisted." I turned to go. "Don't go," she said, soft, broken, human. "Please, stay." There's a moment when right and wrong aren't two roads. They're one rope you grip to keep from falling. I stayed on the rug, back against a chair, listening to her breathe until the lake light turned the room pale. When I left, the housekeeper was making oatmeal, the guard pretending not to judge, and my heart was heavier than the bag on my shoulder. Weeks turned. I picked up odd jobs, warehouse dish pit, anything with a clock that kept moving. I tried not to think about her. Then one afternoon, a black SUV pulled to the curb outside the Mission. A man stepped out, square shoulders, earpiece, eyes that measured exits. "Mr. Hart," he said, "Ms. Whitfield would like to speak with you." When the gate opened this time, the air felt like a courtroom. Ivy waited at the top of the steps in a loose sweater, hair pulled back, the kind of careful makeup you use to hide how little you've slept. And she was pregnant 8 months. No hiding it. No pretending it was an optical illusion. "Tell me it isn't true," she said, voice tight as piano wire. "Tell me you didn't take advantage of me." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because sometimes you have to punch a hole in panic to breathe. "I drove you home. I sat on your floor. That's all." Her security chief, Ethan, cleared his throat. "Ma'am, you told us to let him help. He stayed in your room for a while." Cameras clicked outside the gate. A drone buzzed like a mosquito with money. Somewhere a blogger sharpened a headline. Ivy's jaw set. "Say you're not the father," she whispered. "The truth doesn't care what we want," I said, "but it will outlive your PR team." The city pounced. "Billionaire carrying homeless man's child," they typed gleeful. Investor calls turned frosty. Reporters dug through my past like raccoons in a dumpster. And if you're wondering if I was offended by the phrase homeless man, not really. Roof or no roof, I've met people with 20 bedrooms who are still unsheltered inside their own bones. The board dragged Ivy into a meeting designed to look like governance and smell like blood. Polished wood table skylines slicing through the glass suits that had never been dirty on purpose. I walked in behind her beard-trimmed, now clean shirt, courtesy of the mission's thrift bin bag, still slung like a habit I couldn't drop. Grant Whitfield, the chairman's golden nephew, who'd never built anything but a smirk, stood holding a tabloid like it was scripture. "This company cannot be led by a woman who—" He didn't finish the sentence because I took a step forward and the room felt it. "Finish it," Ivy said, voice like a blade. "Say what you mean." "By a woman who can't manage her life," Grant spat. "If you touch her job," I told him quietly, "you'll regret it. Not because I'm dangerous, because truth is." Grant smiled thin. "We'll see how brave you sound after the DNA results." There it was, the bad theater twist. He waved a leaked report, half-redacted, suggestive enough to poison a week of news cycles. Investors love adjectives like stability. Rumors are their least favorite noun. Ivy went pale, then angry, then something harder to watch hurt. We went straight to her doctor. The woman looked like she'd rather crawl under the desk than talk. "They threatened to ruin my practice," she confessed. "Grant's people." I altered the preliminary summary. "The actual results are clear. Caleb, you're the father." Ivy gripped the chair until her knuckles went white. Relief and shame punched through her in the same second. I touched her shoulder and she didn't shrug me off. For the first time I saw her without the armor, the girl who'd lost too much too soon, who confused control with safety, because control had been the only thing she could afford. Grant wasn't finished. He showed up with a court-order public DNA test judge supervising cameras, drooling. I said, "Good. Let the truth clock in on the record, no shortcuts." The courthouse smelled like old paper and ambition. Outside, chance microphones, strangers choosing sides in lives they don't live. Inside, bench polished by 1,000 tired stories. The judge asked if we consented. Ivy said yes with a steadier voice than I expected. Blood draw, chain of custody, every checkbox designed to make liars sweat. We waited in a side room where the paint didn't quite match the trim. Ivy stared at her hands. "What if he buys the lab?" she asked. "Then the truth will wait," I said. "It doesn't shake. It just waits longer than we like." She looked at me like maybe I was a fool, or maybe I was the only thing not wobbling on her horizon. When the clerk finally walked in with the envelope, the room inhaled. The judge read, paused like old theater, then spoke. "With 99.9% certainty, the father is Caleb Hart." Boom. Relief detonated. So did the press. Grant shouted about bribery. The judge's gavel cracked a new fault line in his career. Ivy cried, not the silent magazine kind, loud, messy human. I took her hand. For a second, we weren't scandal and narrative. We were two people who'd run out of ways to lie to ourselves. The next week, Ivy took a podium in a green dress that made the cameras love her and the truth love her more. "I thought pride would keep me safe," she said. "Turns out it only kept me alone. I owe a public apology to a man I humiliated." She turned. "Caleb, I'm sorry. Apologies don't fix a past, but they build a floor for tomorrow." I nodded. "Accepted." I said into a mic I never expected to touch. Not because I'm noble, because we're all amateurs at forgiveness until we practice. We didn't run off and get married on a cathedral live stream. Life is not a Hallmark factory. We did something harder. We hired each other. She put me on a short contract to audit the parts of Whitfield Labs no one wanted to look at hard. Not CFO. There are bridges you build with footings, not fireworks. I moved off the shelter cot into a studio that hears trains at 2 a.m. and forgives you for it. When our son Miles came into the world a month later, I held him and realized the headline writers would never understand the size of that moment. A tiny hand wrapped around my finger like a promise I wasn't going to break. People ask if the board took Grant down. Some of them did. Turns out courage is contagious in small, surprising doses. Others waited to see which way money would lean. As for Ivy and me, we're still learning. She still likes control. I still count exits. Some nights she wakes from dreams where the cameras are back. Some mornings I lace up my shoes like I might need to walk a long way again. We're both right. That's the deal. Now here's the part you'll argue about in the comments. A month after Miles was born, Grant reached out through a lawyer with a settlement and a private DNA test that surprise said the opposite. He wanted a payday for his silence, and he wanted it loud. We said no. He leaked the fake. Half the city believed him for 72 hours because scandal is a flavor, people crave truth or not. Then the lab that tested us turned out to be a closet with a printer and a logo. Grant swore he didn't know. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. Maybe the truth will wait on him a little longer. That's where I'll leave it, not with a bow, but with a door cracked open. Some of you will say, she never should have let me in that car. You're right. Some will say I stayed that night to angle for a billionaire's life. You're wrong, but I can't make you feel the difference. Some will say power protects only itself, and this was an exception dressed up as a lesson. Maybe. Me. I say humiliation travels in circles, and sometimes if you're stubborn and lucky and honest when it hurts, so does grace. If you made it this far, talk to me. What would you have done in Ivy's shoes? In mine? Should a board decide a woman's worth by who she loves or who she fails in front of? Have you ever watched a lie sprint past the truth and still trusted the truth to arrive? Drop your city, your story, your take. Like, share, and subscribe. If you believe justice isn't a headline, it's a habit we practice together.